Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride this evening is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing tonight, fellas?
Very good.
Oh, great.
All right. So hopefully you guys had a wonderful Passover weekend before we go into Easter. We had some very interesting games going on this week in the PNFL, and a little bit of controversy with one game. We also have recruiting going on in the PCFL. We've also changed up our format a little bit, so you guys are going to get to see how that goes, and we're going to just start off with that early on with Mitch handling some things and Dean handling the middle segment, and I'm just going to play the conductor on this one. So, player of the week is Zach Wilson from Seattle. Looks like the Pacific Northwest is trying to get some things going on, but we'll talk about that a little bit further. But we are going to take the week summary games, and we're going to pass this on over to Mitch. It's all yours.
All right, everybody. PNFL Week 7 recap coming at you. We're going to get started off in Jacksonville, where the Buffalo Bills, a big road favorite, traveled in to play the Jaguars, needing a win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And they did it in double-digit fashion, 35-24 over the Jags. Caleb Williams, the proper quarterback for Buffalo, started this game. Had a solid game, but really it was all about James Cook. Just an absolute dynamite game. Player of the game, running for 3.7 yards a carry, 44 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You just can't get any better than that from a running back. Am I right, guys? Am I right? So no wonder he won player of the game. But a big win for Buffalo. Dean, what were your takeaways from this game?
Well, I think it's a sign of the times that a running back who gains 44 yards and 2 touchdown passes is player of the game. I don't know that we have any dominant 100 yards per game running backs in the league that, can finish the season with like 1,600 yards. But no, this is a solid effort by Buffalo. They played some pretty decent defense. They played solid offense, and they beat Jacksonville in a key AFC game. And as you said, keep the playoff hopes alive.
Mark, what did you learn watching this game this week?
Well, I tell you what I watched on this game, and I think, the first thing that always stands out to me, and I know you guys have mentioned it before, is that time of possession. Buffalo had time of possession, so they pretty much controlled the clock. They controlled pretty much everything that was going on in the game. They rushed for over 100 yards. Kind of comparable, to what Jacksonville was doing this week as well. But, the passing game, they had the edge of them on the passing game. So I feel bad for Jacksonville as they're struggling, but Buffalo is marching on, and he hasn't thrown in the towel yet. So good win.
All right, let's move into game 2, where we have the once mighty New York Jets flying into San Francisco to take on the 49ers. What a lot of people might not have realized coming into this game, even though the Jets were a 7.5-point road favorite, the Jets are winless on the road coming into this game, and they leave winless on the road, going down to San Francisco 13-6. You know it's a bad day offensively when the other team's defensive tackle, Derek Brown, actually wins player of the game. But that also means that San Francisco had a fantastic day defensively against still a pretty powerful offense in New York. So let's see. Mark, what did you learn from this game this week?
What I learned from this game is that I can't make that statement of the Jets do what the Jets do. I can't run with that anymore. I don't know what's going on out there. Only I can think is that they are just phoning it in and saying, here, take this and run with it. I mean, they ball control was pretty much even. Passing, he just went crazy, 332 to 205 in the air. Rushing, non-existent, as San Francisco just walked the dog on him at 146 yards on the ground. Jets countered that with 332 in the air, but only managed 6 points. I guess you could call that a bend but don't break defense, but you got to give San Francisco all the credit. They held the once mighty team down, and just wondering, is this the end of the Jets dynasty? What do you think about it, Dean?
Didn't you two both pick the Jets to win this game in last week's show?
I have no idea, Dean. I
don't recall. I gotta pull it up and look. I don't know. I might have been on the fence.
I wouldn't be
No,
surprised.
I did because I wanted San Francisco to lose because they're in my division.
These games correctly more often than I do, but I did pick the 49ers to win last week. I said the 49ers are going to win this game and beat the Jets, and they played excellent defense. They held the Jets to just 2 field goals, and they played sufficient offense, scoring 13 points to win this game. Huge win by the 49ers. I think, granted, the 49ers win and lose a lot of close games, but, maybe we need to have a little more faith in Charlie winning some of these games.
All right. Well, hey, let's move to game 3 for week 7. With that Jets loss, that opened the door wide open for Indianapolis with their 5-1 record to really distance themselves over the perennial AFC East champion, going on the road to play the lowly Green Bay Packers, led by, some hack named Shuggy who can't figure out how to do a second-half game plan to save his life. But then, WTF, Indianapolis, you got blown out 27-7? Come on! You can't lose a game against an 0-6 team if you're going to win this division against a reeling New York Jets squad. So I don't know what to say other than, Shuggy, hey, great job, man. You showed up. Defense played super strong, only giving up 13 first downs to Indianapolis, holding them under 300 yards. Hey, and your quarterback, even though he wasn't efficient, he definitely was effective, throwing for 331 and 2 touchdowns. So hats off to Shuggy. But Dean, what did you take away from this game?
Yeah, this game was all defense. So it doesn't matter who you play in this league. If the team plays defense, they have a chance of winning. I mean, look at these numbers. They held Indianapolis to just 251 yards of passing. They forced Indianapolis to punt 12 times. 12 punts, 6 per half. If your team is punting 12 times, you almost can't win unless the other team maybe punts 14 times.
Dean, he almost had as many punts as first downs.
Yeah, you're right. 13 first downs and 12 punts. So 12 punts. Now, the Green Bay offense was certainly adequate. Malik Willis completed 49% of his passes, but he threw 2 touchdown passes, which was enough to win the game, given that they only gave up a single touchdown. And I don't know whether that was on a short field or a turnover or whatever it was, but excellent defensive effort by Green Bay and 27 points of offense, and it translates into a win at home against the team that is leading the AFC East over the Jets.
Mark, what are your takeaways?
Congrats to Shuggy on getting this win. It was long overdue. Indy, they have a good thing going over there, and I understand sometimes you run into that little bump in the road where you might have overlooked someone. But I will take the message that was given to me by Coach, and nothing against Shuggy, but this was a game that Indy was supposed to win. Flat out was supposed to win this game.
10.5 point favorites, Mark.
I understand that, but and like Dean said, when you're punting 12 times, you're not getting anything done. 48 yards rushing. Shuggy beat him 331 to 224 passing. Yes, I like looking at my stats. And 92 yards rushing. I think this was some cold water on Indy, and they better regroup fast.
All right. Well, let's move on to Game 4. Speaking of one-win teams here this season, we've got New England rolling into New York to play the Giants. A pick'em game. Apparently, the prognosticators just had no idea what would happen here. And so, New England, another tough game. 21-3 loss to New York Giants. Man, I tell you, you look at some of the stats for New England this year, everybody. I mean, they lead the league in first downs, defensively, on giving up the fewest first downs in the league. They're also ranked pretty high in some other really strong statistical categories. They just can't seem to put any points on the board. So that is really costing them this year. And so, again, some solid statistics here in this game, particularly defensively, but no points means no win. So, Mark, what do you think's going on here with New England?
I wish I knew. I really wish I knew what was going on out there in New England. Mox, he had it at one point in seasons past, but I don't know what's going on. I think I would start, if I was him, I'd start with the profile first, and then find a good playbook or some good plays or something. Look in the database, the logs or something, and try to build something off of that. But I don't know what's going on down there. He's 335 in the air to 139 for the Giants, for Sanders. He stopped Sanders from passing. Rushing was pretty much close, but he lost a fumble. Was intercepted once. Looking at the stats, he should have won. Flat out, he should have won.
I think we say that just about every week. That's every week we say about New England.
So it comes down to the profile. What's he doing in his profile? That's the only thing I can think of. He has the plays. The stat shows he has the plays. He needs the profile to go with the plays. That's all I got to say.
I know you're a quarterback whisperer here in the league. What do you think about Sanders winning player of the game with a paltry 139?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. We criticize that. But, we watched this game with Moss Friday night on Discord, and he was very unhappy with his team, especially very unhappy with what he said was his offense being inept. They scored 3 points despite racking up a lot of yards. It seemed like his offense would get in the red zone and then stall out. And I believe there might have been a couple missed field goals as well. Marks was very unhappy, and I kind of identify with him. Given the giant turd that my team dropped in the punch bowl Friday night with its effort, I can't be any more happy with what my team did than Mox is with what his team did. And as to what's going on with our teams, that's a really good question. I can't even give as much of an answer of what's going on with New England right now any more than I can figure out what's going on with the inability of my own team to win a game either.
Yeah, wild times, guys, wild times. And I'll tell you what, speaking of wild times, let's go to our next game, because this one has controversy written all over it. We had Denver traveling into Washington to play the 6.5-point favorite Redskins. This has turned out to be an absolute the brawl on the field, but also just controversial. In fact, this is just actually, hang on, everybody. This is just coming across my desk here at the PNFL News. Yes, I can report here live on the air that Pam Bondi and the DOJ have just opened up a full investigation on the controversial fumble in the end zone safety situation here in this game, and so we're going to put this on hold for later in the season. But looks like the DOJ is now getting involved since it is involving a team from the D.C. area. So the latest news coming in. So. Dean, why don't we go and see what your thoughts were about this game?
Upon hearing that news, I'm gonna stand with the Redskins and stand up against that. That's I think an unlawful intrusion into NFL business, and I'm gonna stand with the resistance and stand with the Redskins here, and I'm sure Jerry will appreciate that support. I put my lead pipe lock on this game last week for Washington to win, and in doing that, I didn't think they would win in the manner that they did. I mean, I saw that replay, what exactly happened to a player fumbled and one of Denver's players recovered it and then somehow got tackled in the end zone for a safety rather than what should have been, as far as I understand it should have been Denver getting the ball on offense at 20. Instead, it was a safety, 2 points scored for Washington, and then Washington getting the ball back. If there's an issue here at all, it's with the officials, not with Washington. Washington didn't do anything wrong. But the officials who called that maybe should be questioned. And, we've certainly had plenty of questions raised even in real life football about officials making the wrong calls over the last 4 or 5 years. But, for government officials in Washington who are presiding over the biggest mess in the history of the country to worry about a play in a PNFL game, I think they have bigger fish to fry and should be staying out of this one. I stand with Washington. Not against
Mark.
Denver, against what you were talking.
Mark, what are your takeaways in this game?
It doesn't matter if it's the NFL, UFL, NCAA, PCFL, or the PNFL. Referees suck. And the way that it was explained, it was just, I'm like, wow, this is some real drama here. Overall, I mean, it was a good game, overall, but, the controversy that definitely, put a mar on the overall game, how everything went with the game. But, I can't say that, the refs are human because they're actually pixelated, but, they were programmed by a human, so can't say much else about that, I'd say investigate it, but at the end of the day, nothing's going to happen. You just gotta take this one and, just take it out. If I was Denver, whoever's next week, just take the beating out on them. You gotta take it out on somebody.
All right. All right. Very good. All right. Now, if everyone would please rise and remove your caps. We're about to go into our next game.
Oh, my God. Oh, why did I give him that spot this whole section? Go ahead.
Oh, yes. The Houston Oilers going on the road as road dogs, 4.5-point underdogs to Pittsburgh. Whoo! Pittsburgh's behind is red this week. Oh, my goodness gracious alive. Baker Mayfield just torched Pittsburgh, and then the ground game just pounded it all the way up and down the field. 34 first downs to 9 first downs, 42 minutes of possession. 500 yards of offense to only 163 for Pittsburgh, and a 14-point win, which actually should be much more than that, but we'll figure that out later. But anyway, a nice win for Houston, America's team. And so, Mark, why don't we go to you and tell me, what do you think about this game?
I had made a comment when we was going through the games last week that normally because growing up in my younger days, I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, especially over Houston, back when they were in the same division in the NFL. But I knew something was different about this game, and I actually chose Houston to take this victory. So there's definitely something in the water over there. Mayfield, 332 in the air to Levis, 147. 178 just decimated them on the ground, and Pittsburgh couldn't stop the run, couldn't stop the pass. Nothing else needs to be said, one interception. So it was Houston all day, every day. So tough loss for Pittsburgh, but there's still some time. But they need to start to right the ship, and they need to start by next week.
Pittsburgh will be back. You'll know they'll be back. Dean, what are your takeaways from this game?
I think the big factor is Houston played some really solid defense against Pittsburgh, holding them to 14 points on 163 total yards. I'll admit Baker Mayfield remembered how to play quarterback again and completed 68% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, which is a really key stat.
Doesn't that look nice, Dean, that 0 interceptions this week?
So, Houston played some pretty good offense. Could have been a little better, but they played good offense. Excellent defense, and won a really hugely important divisional battle in Pittsburgh. I had picked Pittsburgh to win, and I was not right on that. Houston won this game. So, solid win for your team, and you're looking good atop the division.
We'll take it. And speaking of taking it, here we're going to go to our next game. We've got Las Vegas traveling to the Georgia Dome. 2.5-point favorite against the Falcons. It took them to overtime. It took them all the way into overtime, and they were able to get that win 23-17. Split squad game for Atlanta with Burrow and Hooker playing significant minutes there. So I'd love to hear the coach's take on kind of where he might go this upcoming week with that quarterback situation. But another tough loss for Atlanta and a much-needed win for Las Vegas that keeps them in the playoff hunt at 3-4. So nice win for Vegas. So, Mark, what are your takeaways?
Well, I thought that Atlanta was going to pull this one off. I knew it was going to be a little hard fought. Both teams are kind of stumbling around a little bit so far in the season. I got to admit there was a part of me that was rooting for Dean. I mean, he had the air attack, not the ground attack. His defense could not stop the run, and at the end of the day, that was it. So tough loss for Dean. Good victory for Vegas. Keeps him in the fight. Dean just has to go back and regroup and refocus. And again, I said it earlier this season, find out what it was that helped you several seasons ago. And yes, I know the quarterback's not there, but get you another quarterback and find that magic again. That's all I got to say.
Dean, tell us, how's the team feeling this week after this tough loss?
Yeah, this game was just a disgrace, just an absolute disaster. And I don't think the quarterback is the issue. And yeah, 2 of them played in this game, and Burrow had a minor injury and sat out for I think a couple drives, and Hendon Hooker came in and led the offense. But I don't know. We're hosting the Giants this week. I think if our team loses another game, the fans are just going to absolutely stage an insurrection and want some change.
Break out the bags.
Tough go in Atlanta.
They'll be bringing bags.
Yep.
No doubt about that.
All right, speaking of bringing the bag, we're going to go to Minnesota, where, the America's second favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings, a 9.5-point favorite against what is hard to say, the lowly Chicago Cardinals this season. And I tell you what, that Minnesota defense stood up and just smothered that Chicago offense, only giving up 6 points. Forget the fact that Minnesota only scored 13 themselves. They didn't want to, wear themselves out for later in the season. So I commend, Coach Barney for that. But another win and 7-0 Minnesota Vikings. So Dean, what did you learn here?
Well, Minnesota played excellent on defense, holding Justin Fields and the Chicago Cardinals to just 2 field goals. But Drew Lock was back at quarterback and seemed to be a bit out of practice in playing the position. Only completed 12 passes out of 23 for a measly 87 yards. And the offense for Minnesota struggled. They had some very good rushing. Not decent, 8.4 yards per carry, but maybe should have done more of it. Excuse me, they ran for 160 yards, but that 87 yards of passing just didn't get it done. And the Minnesota offense struggled, but it did score 13 points, which was enough when their excellent defense is only giving up 2 field goals. So still an important win, but, I think the Minnesota coaching staff is probably looking at how do we improve the offense for playing some of their tougher games on the schedule where they'll need to score more than 13 points to win.
I think Minnesota, is trying not to show too much on offense with their track team since they only got, their longest pass is only 13 yards. They're not really trying to send the track team down the field right now. Mark, what did you take away?
Oh.
Since you are chasing this team right now.
Well, I can't really say too much negative because I had mine stumble a couple weeks back. I mean, hey, he got the win. An ugly win is still a win. He didn't have Chicago had the ball a lot longer than they did. Drew Lock, 87 yards, 1 interception, 160 yards on the ground, which was good, but that's not a Minnesota passing attack right there. Shoot, wow. What I want to look at and talk about, I mean, Minnesota's good. We always know that. What's going on in Chicago? Chicago still has a lot of work to do to get things turned around over there, or at least try to get things going because, we'll talk about them a little bit more in the second segment. But, hey, Minnesota, you got the win. An ugly win is still a win. So, I got something circled on the calendar. I'm not looking too far ahead, but there's something that's circled on my calendar for a couple of weeks down the road.
Very good. Well, tell you what, speaking of ugly and winning, we're going to go to our next game pitting Seattle, who, Seattle being actually a 3.5-point underdog on the road with that, they're at the time a 5-1 record, goes in and just destroys Philadelphia 34-13. Zach Wilson putting the Seahawks on his back, throwing for 346, 2 touchdowns, winner player of the game and player of the week honors. Seattle just continues to find a way to get points on the board. The thing that's really great about the Seattle this season is that they're leading the league in passing efficiency, which has been a long time coming for Seattle, but they also lead the league in interceptions created. And so when you're causing your opponent to throw picks and you're passing the ball efficiently, that's a winning formula in this league. So nice job, Seattle. Dean, what are you thinking here?
Well, the one thing I'm thinking is I picked Seattle to win this game, and I said that spread was rubbish, and this result proves that to be true. Zach Wilson, who was the best quarterback in the draft class in which he was chosen, completed passes for more than 10 yards per completion, 23 completions for 346 yards. Those are some solid numbers. The Seattle offense is looking fairly solid. They play good defense, holding Philly to just 13 points. Of course, I did make Zach Wilson the player of the game, and I believe the player of the week as well. So solid effort by Seattle, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Seattle is going to match up and competing against Minnesota and their struggling offense when they play in a couple weeks this season. Yes. It should be the game of the week when we watch it on Discord that night.
Yes. Mark, do you have anything to say here? Any comments?
Well, I will say that I'm happy with the victory, but there's still a lot more work to be done. We rebound nicely after that loss last week. So put that behind us and had to regroup, but still there's plenty more work to be done to kind of get into that upper tier group. So we're taking our steps. We're starting to knock on the door, but the big stretch of games are going to be coming up later in the season. So that's really going to show have we arrived or not. But it was a great win by the team. Good overall effort.
All right. Well, that wraps up our game recaps from Week 7. For power rankings after Week 7, you've got Minnesota ranked 1, Pittsburgh 2, Houston 3, and Seattle number 4. So your top 4 in the power rankings through Week 7. Week 8 we'll talk about in a few minutes. But, Mark, back over to you.
All right, that's a nice way to run through the games real quick. Thanks a lot, Mitch. We're going to pivot on over to our middle segment in this one here. We're going to talk a little bit more about the controversy that we had with the Washington game and see what else Dean has on his plate regarding the happenings in the league this past week. So, Dean, we're going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, before we talk about the controversy in the Washington-Denver game, we look at what's going on in the league. We're almost at the halfway point, and we're definitely seeing some kind of changing in who's controlling divisions. I mean, look at the AFC East. Indianapolis is 5-2. They kind of stumbled at Green Bay, but they're still a game ahead of the Jets and still have probably the better chance overall of winning the division over the Jets, especially if they can beat the Jets when they play them later on this season. Buffalo is 3-4, just a game behind the Jets. They could also tie or finish ahead of the Jets if they win a number of their games down the stretch. New England is struggling, of course, as we covered earlier, at 1-6. Equally so, if you look at the NFC West, Minnesota is 7-0. Doesn't surprise anyone. And Chicago is 4-3, and seem to be fading fast. But Seattle is 6-1 and challenging Minnesota, and that's a position that Seattle hasn't been in the last few seasons, but Seattle's playing very well, playing some good defense and playing some very good offense. And Seattle is very competitive this year and seems likely to jump into the playoffs this season and, is giving Minnesota a challenge for the division. And who would have predicted a few seasons ago that Chicago would be 2-5 and in fourth place? The coaching change in Chicago seems to lead to Chicago struggling. Now, the NFC East, you could say, well, that's kind of the normal, that Washington is 5-2 and leading. The Giants are behind a game by 4-3, but Giants haven't looked too good in the last couple of weeks. So, it's questionable whether the Giants are really going to compete for a playoff spot or they're going to kind of fade to the background. And we may only have possibly, unless the Giants get it together, we may only have one team with a winning record in the NFC East. That would be the Redskins. And you look at the AFC West, Houston and Pittsburgh are at the top, and that's to be expected. Las Vegas in third place with a 3-4 record. That's probably not what people expected. And down at the bottom, Denver and Jacksonville are tied at 2-5. Denver had a tough loss to Washington in tough circumstances. I guess we can talk about that. Mark, do you want to explain exactly, as you understand, what happened in that sequence of plays in that game?
Well, from what I could look at, because I read the postings going on, but when I looked at the play, from what I could see, it looked like there was a play that was they were coming out of the end zone. The offense fumbled the ball. The offense fumbled the ball. Then I guess they somehow recovered it. Once it was recovered, the defense sacked them. Like it was everything it was like a bang, bang, bang right there on the goal line. And that pretty much caused the sequence of plays. And I think it was a touchdown or was it a safety on that? I think it was a touchdown off of that.
Safety.
It was a safety. Yeah, it was a safety. It was a safety on
player,
that. Yeah, it was a safety.
Where was
the
fumble recovered? Was it recovered in the end zone or outside the end zone?
No, it was. It looked like it was on the outside. It was outside the end zone, but then he got tackled in the end zone. That's what it looked like.
Wouldn't that be Denver's ball at the 20 then?
If he fumbled it and he got the ball out, but then the defensive player happened to tackle him back in the end zone, it's a safety. He was tackled. It was a he was tackled in the end zone, so that was a safety.
So you're saying it was a proper call by the referees then?
According to the rules, as I understand them, they're going off the NFL rules. That was a good call. You can fumble it in the end zone, and you can try to come out of the end zone with it. But if I'm running the ball out and Mitch happens to tackle me as I'm coming out of the end zone, and he happens to tackle me in the end zone, doesn't matter if I fumbled it or not. Where was I at? Where was the ball at when I was tackled? He was in the end zone. Safety.
You're saying the Denver player tried to advance it, was briefly outside of the end zone, and then tackled back into the end zone.
Correct.
And that's why it was a safety.
Correct.
So it was an error by the Denver player to try to advance it then. If he recovered it in the end zone, he should have just immediately fell on it, and they would have had it at the 20 on offense.
If Denver fumbled it, it was Denver's ball, if I'm not mistaken. It was Denver's ball. So Denver fumbled it. If Denver would have fumbled it and fell on it in the end zone, that's a safety. If he fumbled it in the end zone, picks it up and tries to run out. Once you fumble it, you got to get it out of the end zone. You have no choice.
No.
You got to get it out of there. So if you pick it up and you run out and you fall at the 1 foot line, you're still out of the end zone. But once you go out and if you get tackled and you land in the end zone when you're tackled, it's a safety.
Did Denver fumble or did Washington fumble? I thought it was Washington fumble and Denver recovering.
No.
Hey, everybody. Hey, I'm getting another breaking news report here coming across in regard to this controversy. Due to investigation warp speed, the DOJ has already concluded their full investigation of the situation and has decided to drop all charges against the Washington football team known as the Redskins. And we are told to just move on and let the dead bugs eat the horse. So that is the official word from the DOJ. So back to you.
Aren't they the masters of the obvious? What are we paying these people to do what I told them? Ridiculous. Anyway, so I guess that's the issue of it. It's not going to change the outcome of the game. Washington still has a 30-27 win, and we move on. It's tough for Denver, but this game alone doesn't determine Denver's fate this season, and it doesn't explain how they struggled in other games. So, I guess that's the end of the story, I guess.
Yeah. I say it was I still say it was a bad call, but who am I?
Anyway. What do you think about Chicago? Chicago 5.
Wait, what was the question again?
Chicago's just having a tough overall season altogether.
Yes.
this new coach isn't working out, I think he'll be relieved of his duties after the season.
I think for the new coach, being that it's his first time in the league, they'll give him another shot. I mean, you think about it, most times when new coaches come in, they usually have a rough outing their first season. It's baptism by fire. So,
Well, I think one thing this is teaching us, guys, is that I think most coaches tend to believe that Chicago has the best roster in the league based on, points and weightings and whatnot. It just shows that you can have the supposed best roster in a very narrow rostered league, and if you can't coach, you can't win games.
Well, that roster is 2-5 right now. So it's obviously more
because they're not being coached. Yeah.
Hey, what was Houston's record last season? I think they were at 2-5.
2-5.
Do you really think that Chicago's about to go on this run unless Justin takes over, Mark?
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, you never.
Crazier things have happened.
Take over and put his full effort into it, and end up 11 winning.
I was the best 2-5 team this league had ever seen last year.
I think if I can just touch on this a little bit more, looking at the over on the NFC side, teams that are taking a step forward. I know that New York has always been on that bubble, but it looks like they may take that step forward this time. Over on the NFC side, Philly needs some work over there. Washington, they're always doing good. Over on the West, Minnesota, moving from the AFC to the NFC, they still kept the train moving. Seattle, I'm sure that everyone's looking at Seattle as a surprise, like, whoa, wait, where'd they come from? So, so
Seattle's the biggest story in the league. Let's just call it what it is. Seattle's the biggest story in the league this year. 6-1, had that tough loss against Pittsburgh. We would be saying the same. We'd be saying Indianapolis right there with you, but they stubbed their toe against Green Bay, which definitely makes the story of the year right now. Seattle and what you're doing there. So the key is you got two games that on paper are winnable these next couple of weeks. You got to put those away, get that guaranteed non-losing season before some of those tougher games start coming in, and you'll be onto something special.
Yes, that's definitely
true. With the one thing you said, I'm not sure the Giants are taking that next step this season. I mean, they lost that pathetic game 21-20 to my team. I don't know that's a team that's taking the next step when you lose that kind of game. You say maybe it was a bad week, or maybe in the case. I don't know. I'm saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right. Well, the Giants will determine if they take that next step and how they play over the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, it depends on what he's going to do as far as doing the proper preparation. That's as I'm finding out this season. Once you focus and take the time to prep yourself up, you see the results from preparing yourself.
Well, going back to the whole 2-5 situation, if there is a 2-5 team this season that I believe has a shot to make the playoffs, it's Denver. I think that agree. Denver team has had some things happen to them. I think Brian does a solid job of reading the indicators. If there's a team that can run off some wins and get at least back to 500 or 9 wins, get to the playoffs, I think it's Denver.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. On the NFC side, it's I don't know. Dean, you got to find that magic again, dude. And the points. Gotta get the points on offense and definitely stop the bleeding on defense.
There's no offense. 103 points scored on offense. It's the worst offense in the league. New England is at 123, even though they don't score.
Yeah. But you're giving up 143. That's not good at all.
Hey, it's better than what I've done. Even the 162.
Oh,
No,
my
it's
goodness.
it's a lack of offense. A couple of the games, the defense could have been better, but the offense has been terrible for every single game. My team has 2 wins, each by 1 point, over a 2-5 Chicago team and over the 4-3 Giants by 1 point. I mean, there's no offense. If the offense doesn't show up, the season is done. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well, Mark, you ready to go dive into these Week 8 games and see what kind of trouble we're going to get into?
Yes, indeed. Let's jump into the Week 8 games that are coming up. We do not have any pick'em games. The biggest spread that we have, you have your wide array of spreads. There's a one that's real tight, but we'll jump all into that. So there's some pretty good games I see out of here. When we get to it, I'll let you guys know. As you know, we still have the lead pipe lock, so we're going to pass this one back over to Mitch to run through the games.
All right, Week 8 is here, and a lot of big games on the horizon coming into mid-season. And we're going to start off with a hot one. We've got Indianapolis traveling to Denver. Even though Denver is 2-5 and Indy's 5-2, Denver, what does the prognosticators know that we don't? Because Denver is a 2.5-point favorite. They're agreeing with me. They think Denver is going to go on a run the second half of this season, and I agree as well. I'm taking Denver in this game. What do you think, Dean? What do you think, Dean?
Not so fast. I'm throwing 100 gallons of cold water on all of that. The Colts are going to rebound after what happened in Green Bay last week. The Colts are not only going to win this game, I'm putting all my chips on this game. I'm putting a lead pipe lock on Indianapolis winning at Denver this week.
Ooh, and you will be a poor man for it. You will be a poor man. Mark, what do you think?
Oh, good God. I mentioned it in the second segment. If anyone can turn around and make the playoffs, it's Denver, and it's going to have to start this week. So I'm going to start with the Broncos. Take the Broncos this week.
All right. Let's move into week 2. Game 2 here. And this will be interesting. You've got the 1-6 Patriots, who statistically should be 6-1, going on the road to face the Bills Mafia, who are 6.5-point favorites. Bills right now, they've won 2 in a row. They're 2-1 at home. New England, 1-3 on the road. Oh, man. You know what? I'm going with the Patriots. I think that Mox is going to make some adjustments to that late game profiling, and I think he's going to pull it out this week. Mark, what do you think?
Bills.
All right.
I'm not going to say anything else, Bills.
Split it. Where are you at?
Mitch, I think you're going for the 2 points from Rich this week on your picks by going 0-0. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, sorry, Max, your team probably struggles again in Buffalo. Bills are going to win and cover this game. There's no doubt about that. Win and cover the spread. It's all Bills.
All right. Well, let's move on to Game 3, where the mighty Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be steamrolling into Jacksonville, 10.5-point favorites over the hapless Jags, who can't seem to score on a wet paper bag. I'm going with the Steelers in this game. What do you think, Dean?
Pittsburgh is going to win a blowout in this one. Probably a couple touchdowns or more.
Mark, are you agree with us, or are you going out on your own on this thing?
Nope. Steelers. Not going to say anything else.
Right.
Steelers.
3 for the Steelers. All right. Let's keep it rolling. A battle of the greens. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of underachieving this year, if you want my humble opinion, everybody. 4.5-point favorites going on the road against the suddenly upstart Green Bay Packers, led by the nature boy, Shuggy. And so, you know what? I'm going to take Green Bay in this game just because I think it would be fun to watch Shuggy celebrate. So I'm going with Green Bay. What do you think, Mark?
Part of me wants to say Shuggy's going to start shaking some things up. Philly is struggling. I'm calling for the upset. Go ahead, Shuggy. Whatever it was that you took last week, when token up on before you when you was doing your plan, do it all over again. I'm going for Green Bay for the upset.
So instead of the Lambeau Leap, we've got the Shuggy Shake. All right. What do you think, Dean? What's going to happen this week?
I'm that it's an upset. I think the spread is rubbish. Green Bay is going to win at home, and that's all there is to it. I think Shuggy is going to redefine what you all call pulling a Shuggy. And I think we're going to start seeing more wins by the Packers in the second half of the season. Green Bay is going to win this game at home. I have no doubt about that. I'd almost put a lead pipe lock in this if I hadn't already put it on the Indianapolis game.
All right. That's 3 for the Pack. All right, everyone, if you would please rise and remove your caps.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yes, the Redskins, led by the wild man, Jerry, rolling into the House of Pain in Houston to take on the Oilers, who are 3.5-point favorites, coming off a big road win against Pittsburgh. Of course, I'm going to take my home standing Oilers, but Mark, what are you thinking this week?
This one is a very let me see. Both teams are playing well. Washington sitting at 5-2. Houston sitting at 5-2. Washington's given up. Washington's put up 190 points versus Houston 171. Washington's defense has given up 120 versus Houston 162. Defense wins games. I gotta go with Washington on this one. I think Washington is. I'm gonna call them for the upset by the simple fact that you've given up more points than they have. So you've given up more points. Hey, they have a tough defense.
All right, Dean, what do you think?
I'm calling for the upset.
So
hey, I didn't put a lead pipe lock on it though. I didn't put a lock on it though.
I'm going to say not so fast. Houston is going to play tough defense in this game, and they're going to be the stronger team at home, and they're going to be very happy to win over the Redskins at home, probably by 4 or 5, maybe 6 points.
All right. Now that sounds like a guy who knows what he's talking about, everybody. I would take. All right, here we go. A big rivalry game from the NFC East. We've got the Giants, who are trying their best to get their first ever winning season. 4.5-point favorites going on the road to the Dome in Atlanta to take on the Falcons, who, as we've already talked about tonight, really struggling on offense this season. The Falcons did squeak out a road win against the Giants earlier this year. You know what? I'm going with the Falcons again. I'm waiting to see if the Giants can be consistent. And so I'm going to take the Falcons at home. So, Mark, what do you think this game?
Dean, I'm going to call the Falcons for the upset this week, Dean. Don't make me regret it. I think you can pull this one off, and it could be one of those games where the Giants kind of look over you, but you got to find that magic. I say go back a couple seasons, pull that old profile out, and throw that one back in there. Find the one you went to the playoffs, you went on a playoff run with, and load that up and see if that'll work. But yeah, I'm gonna call for Atlanta for the upset.
All right, Dean, what are you thinking, man? You got anything up your sleeve?
I can't decide whether these two teams are going to struggle on offense and play a defensive struggle, or the defenses, either that or the defenses aren't going to show up in either side, and we're going to have a shootout. But I think the home team will probably prevail by about a field goal, whether it's like a 17-14 win or it's like 41-38. I think it's going to be one or the other. I don't think this is going to be like a 24-21 win. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle, or it's going to be a shootout. And I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think it's going to be one or the other when we watch the game on Friday.
All right. So let's go to what would normally be game of the week material. Vikings on the road versus the Jets. Vikings 7-0, Jets 4-3, kind of running on autopilot. But they are undefeated at home, the Jets. So looks like prognosticator is leaning on the Jets at 1.5 points. So, ooh, almost to pick him, but he's like, I'll just go ahead and say 1.5 for the home field advantage, especially since the Jets are 4-0 at home. Ooh, I gotta go with the Vikings. Y'all know I'm gonna pick the Vikings. Why am I even gonna hesitate? I'm going with Vikings in this game, and we'll. I'm confident. Dean, what are you thinking?
A 1.5 point spread. Have we ever seen one of those? I mean,
No, I have not.
I've never seen that.
Stash and trying those mushrooms. 1.5 points. No, I don't buy that. The Vikings are going to find their offense, and they're going to keep their defense playing well, and they're going to go into the whatever the stadium, whatever they call it these days, that the Jets and Giants play in, and they're going to win over the Jets.
All right.
Not that spread at all.
Mark, what are you thinking, Mark?
I need the Jets to win this game. I'm not going to say the Jets are going to do what they're going to do, because right now I really don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to win or are they going to lose? But I have to take the Jets this week. I'm putting my coins in on this one to try to give them a little extra boost on this one. And I am calling on the Jets to take this game. I need the Jets to take this game. There's no way I could pick Minnesota. No.
Is that the lead pipe lock you're putting on this?
That's my lock for this week on the Jets.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard. He's going with the team that's undefeated at home versus the team undefeated on the road. Yep. All right. Speaking of, I would say, winless on the road, we've got Chicago winless on the road this season, flying into San Francisco to take on Niners, who are actually 4-1. So at home this season, 7.5 point favorites the 49ers are. And I'm going to have to roll with the Niners. The Cardinals are just not the same this year. We all know that. We all see that. And the 49ers did a great job against the perennial power Jets last week. So I think they'll do it again against the Cardinals. So going Niners. Mark, what do you think?
I'll keep it short and sweet, Niners.
Dean, thoughts?
I know that Charlie's team is notorious for not covering the spread and winning closer when they have spreads like this. But I have faith in Charlie's team and his coaching, and the 49ers are going to win and cover that spread this weekend against the Cardinals.
All right. And now to our last game, one that at least no one on this podcast really cares about. We've
Nope.
got Seattle, 6.5-point favorites going on the road to Las Vegas. Probably going to hit the casinos a little bit since they've got that 6-1 record. Probably not taking it too serious since Las Vegas is only 3-4. So they'll probably kind of mail it in this week, having a good time.
No, don't think so.
It's one of those games that Seattle, as we talk about, a team like Seattle has to win, if they're going to take that next step. But, I'm sure Mark will be, taking a breath this week. But maybe they'll squeak by. I'll still go with Seattle, but I think it'll be closer to the second half. Dean, what do you think? Dean, what do you think?
Mark is going to have his team disciplined, and he's going to institute a rule that there be no visiting the casinos and no gambling until after the game.
No conjugal visits on the road?
Nope.
No, they're going to be focused on the game. When they beat the Raiders, then after they beat the Raiders, they'll go out and hit the casinos and do a little partying before they head back home to Seattle. Seattle will win.
No conjugating till after the win. I hear you. All right. So, Mark, what are you thinking here?
Gonna try to keep this thing going. Again, try to build that momentum up that we did on the first 5 games before we had our stumble. So, try to get that momentum going again. Go Hawks!
All right. Well, everybody, that brings us to the end of our Week 8 preview. Can you believe we're already at the midway point of this season? Lots of great football has already occurred. Lots more is scheduled here over the second half of the season. A lot of teams still in striking distance of playoffs, since we all know as long as you're at least 2-5, you're still in the hunt, right, everybody? Mark, back to you.
All right. So as we take this last stop before we wrap up for the day, we're going to switch over to the PCFL. They just completed their 5-star recruiting, and they're starting their 4-star recruiting. So we're going to move it over to the PCFL commish, Mr. Chambers, to give us an update on all the dealings in the PCFL. Dean.
Yeah, that's what's going on right now. We're recruiting 4-star players. Now, I noticed last season that some teams kind of overspent in 5-star bidding, and the few teams that had the wisdom to kind of pull back on the 5-star bidding did very well in bidding on 4-star players. So I think teams saw that in this season. Teams are a bit more conservative in their spending of recruiting points during the 5-star bidding. So a lot of teams came into the 4-star bidding with a lot of points to spend, and the bids are coming in fast and furious, and teams are spending those points the way our federal government spends money. And the 4-star players are being bid up. It looks like a few of the 4-star players might even sign higher NIL contracts and recruiting points than some of the 5-star players did, which is amazing. So, the bidding is crazy right now, and it's probably actually today, this afternoon, was some of the hottest bidding that went on. Just about all the teams, the active human coach teams, are active in the bidding and spending a lot of points and bidding up these players. And it's quite competitive. It's quite fascinating to watch it. And, of course, I'm bidding on behalf of my own team, so I'm just as much involved in it. So that's what's going on. And I suspect by the end of the week, most of the 4-star players will be signed. Teams will have a few points left to pick up a few 3-star players next week that will probably get signed for like 1 point each. Those will kind of be like bidding on our 1-star free agent players in the PNFL when we do free agency before the draft. So that's what will probably happen, and most teams will have their rosters filled out and all their recruiting points spent, and we'll be looking at training camp and then starting the 3rd season in the PCFL, which will be, I think, a very good competitive season, and that's what's going on in the PCFL.
All right. Thank you very much. So, a lot of information in this week's show. just a bit over on our normal time. We try to keep within our frame, our time frame. But good stuff this week's show, or for this week's show. Good luck to everyone this week as we make one last trip around the table. Dean, any final words that you have overall?
Yeah, after this coming week, 8 games, next week we're going to be able to look at the halfway point of the season and see what teams are doing what this season. I think some of our teams that are struggling in the 5 and 6 loss category right now, I think we're going to really start seeing the list of PNFL teams that are still realistically, not talking mathematically, but realistically in the battle for a playoff spot. I think we're going to see that list over the next few weeks start to narrow down as some of these teams pick up their 6th, possibly 7th, maybe even 8th losses of the season. So I think that's what we're going to start seeing. The playoff races are going to start to narrow down with fewer teams that are still realistically in contention. So that's what I say.
Okay. Mitch, any final words for you? Take us home.
Yeah, Friday Night Lights, as normal schedule this week. Believe it or not, everybody, I will not be traveling this weekend. I will actually keep my butt at home for once in the last month and a half. So I look forward to spending the evening with you all. So show up, show out, and let's have some fun. So other than that, Mark, I think the only thing left now to do is let's get it.